Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 42 of Body the Cloud9 Fancast. Tonight, we will be discussing the high highs and the low lows of C9's other esports results. Then talking about our League of Legends teams matches against Team Liquid and Team Dignitas. I'm your host Havokpus, and today I'm joined by...
Hi, Dr. Manhattan joining here once again for the Bodied Fancast.
As not always, but most of the time, it's ya boy, Rycool, otherwise known as Trey.
And I am Ian, the audio guy. I'm here again. Hi.
Yes, hello. Thank you for joining me, everyone. So I think probably the biggest thing we should probably talk about for a bit, and I kind of made this a little section beside itself, is the CSGO team has participated in the ECS Season 3 Finals. And I gotta say, it was actually kind of exciting to watch. The group stages, we faced Fnatic and Astralis, and boy howdy, was those some exciting matches. I'm not sure if that's grammatically correct.
C9 went on
Astralis,
to lose 13 rounds in a row. Holy shit.
Astralis is spelled wrong.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Astralis.
Look,
with an
I tried
A.
to do it phonetically, okay?
It's okay.
Reading through this makes me sad.
So, their match against FaZe, we were doing beautiful in Mirage. It was getting hype. People were like, C9 is going to make it to the finals. We got the comeback.
Well, let's bring it back a bit first. Let's talk about the group stage, and then we can talk about the horrendous failings.
The struggles.
The struggles. So we fought against Fnatic and Astralis, two teams that I don't think anyone was really expecting us to win. But then we beat Fnatic. I can't remember the score, but Astralis we actually clawed back and actually beat them in a pretty exciting overtime 4 rounds. And I think everyone was like, okay, the team's coming together. They're looking really solid. Stewie in the IGL role, everything's starting to click. Everything's starting to come together. Shroud has confidence in himself. How were you guys feeling after the group stage, at least? Were you as on Cloud9 as I was?
I was jumping out of my chair. The problem with this was that it was a best of 1. And beating Fnatic is great, but we beat them on Train. Train is considered one of our best maps.
Mm-hmm.
So, beating them on Train is great, but you need to consider, all the factors. And then beating Astralis, it's a best of 1. Our team played great, and I think it really helped us. You could see in the HLTV standings, we jumped all the way to 6. But I still think there was a lot to improve on. And we saw in the FaZe match, we eventually got obliterated. This does look very promising going into this weekend, which is the PGL Kakao Major qualifier. So hopefully we can qualify for the Major and not miss out by 1 game like last time.
Yeah, the FaZe match was extremely disappointing. In the first game, they lose 5-16. Okay, they just get stomped. Maybe Overpass is like their best map. I don't see Cloud9 really playing on Overpass a lot. Maybe they just don't have enough practice on that map. But then they go into Mirage. They played Mirage so much, and they needed the 1 game, which was the thing. They only needed 1 round to win. And then you let them beat you 13 times in a row.
I think we suffered because Liquid, sadly, was in our group. When they died, they passed their method of choking onto us, and we just learned it accidentally. So we understood how Liquid choked, and we evolved it, and we went even farther.
New methods of choking, never known
Before
to mankind.
seen.
But yeah, it was it was really weird because it was at 15-6 at one point. So they just have to get one round, and I think as they started to lose more and more rounds, they started to panic and just try to like rush the game to try to finish it out without maybe thinking more strategically and thinking with a clearer head. And they were just like, we just have to finish, just win, and that really messed them up because a few of the rounds were actually really close. Where like I think one shot could have decided if they had won or not, but then they just mess up, and it was just so hard to watch.
To be fair, FaZe did not look amazing in the tournament, but they did look really good. So, take that with what you will. They got second out of their group, only losing to SK. It's just the process. And I think C9 is going to be a better team, and we're already seeing the improvements.
Yeah, I mean,
even if these were two best of ones that we won.
Yeah, I mean, we got out of the group stage, which before that we've just been getting kicked out of group stages left and right for I think maybe like the past like 10 tournaments or something. I can't remember like the streak, but yeah, to see us, when we got out of the group stage too, we made it fairly competitive, at least against FaZe. The signs are there. Hopefully they can take this momentum at least, learn from their mistakes, and then by the time the major qualifier rolls around, they can do what needs to be done.
Well, I mean, I hope so, because the major qualifier is this weekend.
Yes. Everyone tune in for that, by the way. All right, I think I've drawn out this subject long enough. Does anyone have any other thoughts on it before we move on to a quick rundown of the other results?
Nah, I don't really keep up with CSGO at all. That's you guys' stuff.
Alrighty then. Makes everything a lot simpler. Alright, so for Vainglory, probably one of our latest favorite teams, they competed at the Mobile Masters Invitational, and it was essentially this invitational tournament where the world champions, which was Rox Armada, would take on these teams that were invited to come, and they would just play them one after another until they got beaten. So they were playing all these teams, they were beating them and beating them and beating them, and then Cloud9 steps up to the plate, and Cloud9 defeats them single-handedly. It wasn't even like a close game, it was Cloud9 all the way. It was a best of one, but the way that best of one went out was extremely exciting, and the fact that we defeated the world championships holders was, at least I think, a big deal.
You have to account in that they probably were suffering from a lot of exhaustion for how many best of ones they were playing, but it's still very impressive that our team was able to beat them.
Yeah, I think also they one of the main people that helped them win the championship also went to like another team, so they were down like a guy, but yeah, I still think it's pretty impressive. Sadly, they then went on to face TSM in the VG8, and then they lost 1-2 against TSM, so kind of a bittersweetness going on. Kind of the theme of our other esports stuff lately. Just you win some and then you're riding high, then you take that roller coaster down. For Overwatch, the second half of the Overwatch Contenders Tournament group stage was held. A lot of it was off stream, so I couldn't really watch any of it, sadly. We played against Congarna, Hammers, and Renegades. We tied with Congarna, beat Hammers, and lost to Renegades, so we had to go to a tiebreaker with Congarna, and we lost, so we got kicked out of the tournament, and that super sucks.
The problem, I was really upset because I heard the news after the fact, and the games weren't streamed.
Yeah, they weren't streamed.
Quite annoying, but other than that awful monstrosity of not having a major tournament streamed, we heard that C9 just basically was not playing at their best. which is upsetting.
Yeah, it kind of sucks when that happens because, you know, the organization's really putting a lot into the Overwatch roster, and most of the time, like before this, they were playing fairly well. They would get like third place in tournaments, and they would place like fairly highly in the tournaments they were competing at. And you know, with this contenders thing, which I thought, you know, we could get out of the group stage fairly easily, and you know, we didn't. It kind of sucks. I'm not sure if it's like a meta thing, if some things are kind of shifting. Like, you know, like we said, it wasn't streamed, so we weren't able to watch it and know. But hopefully they can bounce back. I think that the roster does have a lot of potential to win a lot, since they have like Kaiser and Surefour and Adam, to name a few. But yeah, it definitely sucks. And finally, moving on to Hearthstone. Forzen participated in the Seat Story Cup 7. Kind of a long title, but that's all of it. After making it to the top 8, he sadly went 1-4 versus Mitsudihe. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. In the quarterfinals. So, yet again, the winning and then the losing. Kind of unfortunate, but take
Look,
that
we had to sacrifice our other teams to make the important team matter the most.
Yes. Speaking of the important team, everybody give a big welcome, give a big round of applause to Cloud9's latest member in Lulex.
Yeah.
I know that's as much of a shocker to you as it is me. Lulex, yes, has joined the team. Everyone thought he was going to TSM, but no. He has joined our side, the good side. His duties will mostly be consisting of watching the games with Reaper, giving the advice to players, and probably helping to guide contracts to be a higher level of play in the jungle role. Because he's known as the jungler in EU. He has the pathing Nirvana, and you know he's also good friends with Jensen. So I think he can find a happy home here at Cloud9 and help our team become better. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Because this is actually really surprising news that I think also kind of flew under the radar with all the craziness that was happening over the weekend with all the games and everything.
I think that it's great. Like, I will never, ever have a problem with signing players to help out your current players in whatever form they need. Like, if you sign someone as just someone that will help them sit down and improve on their gameplay, I see almost no negative sides to that. So I will almost always be in favor of things like this.
That's very true. It also really helps the analyst side of things, because giving that extra voice and that extra reasoning, especially from somebody who has been in another region, he's been helping a lot of EU teams, that different perspective could actually help our team rise to a higher level than we currently have. And the fact that Contracts is so young and still learning to play in this environment, having somebody who's a veteran should definitely help.
Yeah, absolutely. And not like, I mean, I'm a huge fan, especially when it comes to like us trying to condition. I don't want to say like some of the younger or like people, or like really just try to help like some like establish more, whether it's more synergy or more talent within roles that you kind of either A, have questions about, or B, you feel like could be better. I mean, take last split for example. Last split we had Kane on our team, and and that was around the time where, you know, we saw a lot of, like, this is right off of World, we saw a lot of promise out of Smoothie, and you know, Kane was one of the most, like, is a very tenured support. I mean, people forget this is a guy who at one point was playing with Prey and was on Najin and like was doing phenomenally like there. So I mean, I promise you that like there was a lot that Smoothie took from him when he was on the team. Now he's on Liquid, if I recall correctly, and you know that kind of does help with a lot of people. And now that we have Lulex coming into the team, I mean, this is a guy who has been on a multitude of teams. His most recent stint, I think he subbed in for Trick on G2. But before that, he was a jungler for H2K when they cracked top 3, their first split in the EU LCS, and that was like one of the most memorable EULCS seasons ever. This was back with the Puni era of Fnatic and the OG with Amazing and Soaz. And yeah, Lulex has been with like so many of these teams and has seen so much of it. So I'm really curious to see again how he does well with contracts, to see like if he provides like another insight for the team. And more importantly, I mean, just to kind of lay out like a bit of more infrastructure for Reaper to kind of like alleviate him from a lot of like just having to micromanage every single person.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. He's only been a part of the team for like a week, so the effects may not be felt until a little bit later. But speaking of Liquid, as you mentioned, we played them as well as Team Dignitas last week. It's a 2-0 week for us, which is great. The Team Liquid series was kind of interesting. Game 1, it was really even in kills, but we were just kind of outpacing them around the map and taking objectives a lot better. And in Game 2, it was an extremely low-paced, low-kill game, but Cloud9 was just kind of controlling. They were just kind of controlling them around the map and just making better macro plays, which I think is great to see, considering you want to be able to look at every aspect of the team, and we can see them in the team fight aspect a lot, but to see them more in the controlling map game is also really refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really do like seeing them have that team synergy and decision making. That's like a really, really huge strong point of C9, and seeing them look really good in that aspect is definitely refreshing. It's something that we had seen kind of waver a little bit in the past. Their early game has consistently not been a super strong point recently, but their late game, mid game team fights and shot calling were always good. But that started to waver towards like the end of last season and all that. And so seeing that look back to form, at least for this series, was a really pleasant surprise. Or not necessarily surprise, it was Liquid. This is exactly what they were supposed to look like. But it was good to see that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It makes me feel a little bit bad for Liquid because C9 clearly, I think, has found a strong strategy. Liquid is so all over the place right now, where they keep trying to run this roster where you're constantly subbing people out. Let's go TL, paid by Steve.
Paid by Steve.
This is a TL podcast now, guys. Steve paid us all off.
Team Liquid's going to be great. They're going to bounce back. You guys will make
They're
the
going to
playoffs
win
for
worlds,
sure.
guys. We're telling you that with confidence.
Check is in the mail.
But the problem is, Anori, I think, needs time and needs to synergize with a solid group of 4 individuals who have his back, and that's why he struggled on P1, is because getting subbed out really made him feel like he wasn't giving to the team enough. And I think you're going to find the same problem with Anori on TL. And I don't think Rainover's a bad player, but I do think that they have to get more synergy and stick with a solid 5-man roster. If you don't practice... let me say it this way. If you're practicing with 8 people and you're constantly subbing out 3...
You can't
half your team is getting half practice.
Yeah, you can't learn the other play styles of the people you're playing with because they're constantly changing. Everyone's not getting as much practice as they should because you're splitting the practice time in half. It's just a big mess of like good ideas in theory that's like, oh yeah, we could do this and we can have all these people, and then in practice there's a lot of things about it that don't work very well.
Well, I think also you have to fault them for just their in-game decision-making, because one of the casters mentioned it, I can't remember who was casting that game, or maybe it was another game, but someone said that TL doesn't play to win, they just play to not lose. So if they get an advantage, they don't try to push that advantage, they just try to hold on to it and make sure they it doesn't like crumble before them.
They
and when it ends up,
play scared.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is they don't try to go for more because they're afraid that the game will just explode out of control. But then what ends up happening is the team they're facing against just like figures out what they're gonna do and then just outplays them anyway. So they get themselves into this lose-lose situation, and it's really frustrating to watch actually, just because you know they have good players. They have Piglet, they have Matt and Conquan. You know, they have like decent players. Like Lorlo is considered a fairly decent top laner. You know, especially since he's from NA, which is kind of unheard of in terms of top laner stock.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, they have decent players, but they're just not, you know, coming together to do things, and it's frustrating.
I was looking at like an infographic or whatever that Riot put out, that one of my friends linked me, and he was like, yeah, Piglet's stuck in elo hell. And I was like, oh, well, he hasn't been like amazing or anything, but no, his stats are actually incredible. He was like top 2 or 3 ADCs at almost everything, and the rest of his team was just terrible.
Also, he's doing that with switching out supports, one of which he hasn't played with for a long amount of time.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Piglet. He's super good. He's on like a terrible team.
Stacked with a language barrier on top of that, so just...
That's true as well, yeah.
Like, how else is he supposed to play when half your team... It's the only people who aren't getting switched out are him and Lorla.
Mm-hmm.
And they look like the consistent, like, rocks on the team. If you just keep either, like... And you're getting to the point where, yeah, TL's not in last, but they certainly aren't in a playoff position.
Oh, yeah.
So, if they want any chance of trying to make it to the playoffs, they have to decide now, all right, are we going with a Nori or Rainover? Golden Glue or Slushy? Conquan or Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this
you choose that, and you make a solid 5-man roster, and you practice with all the other players you have, because you have a full sub-squad.
Yeah.
And you practice strategy, and you practice that specific team.
Yeah, and this is all boiling down to the problems that Liquid has had for the past, well, not even past, since their inception, since they were bought out by, since they bought out Curse. Terrible management and terrible back end.
I think part of the problem is, and I think we've kind of caused this to some extent, is because we've had pretty actually good success with our sub strategy. You know, with Bunny and Smoothie, when you know we had Bunny and Smoothie, and then with Impact and Ray, and we've kind of been able to swap them out and have relatively good success. And then teams look at that and go, okay, well they're doing that and they're doing okay. And then they try it, and they're not getting the same results. So I think that part of it is they're just trying to copy a strategy that they don't really know much about or don't have the means to really do well.
Stacked on top of the fact that really they're trying to copy a strategy, but there's a few key points that they forget. For example, let's take a look at Cloud9. When they were doing the sub thing, this was right when we first got Rebird. And if anybody needs to ask what Rebird's track record is as a coach, I mean, you could just Google him for 2 seconds and you'll see everything he's done as a coach and as a player. I mean, you got Team Liquid doing the sub thing. I mean, they got their challenger coach D Lim, who didn't really have much like experience with like.
They have Kane
now. They have Kane, and that's kind of what's like. At least that's what's making them look not terrible. But when they first tried this out, like I think with the original team, like last split, they tried with D Lim, and that didn't really work out. So I think really, it just comes to the point where they're just throwing money out, and it's just like not really working. But what they really need to do is, someone touched on it, they need to find a consistent roster. They need to stick with it, because is it any surprise that the most consistent players on the team are the ones who are consistently playing? Like, it's just it is. I don't even know where to begin with that fire.
And on top of all of this, the C9 strategy, the SKT strategy of, like, if you saw SKT versus KT this weekend, they lost game 1. And then they subbed out Huni, and they subbed out Peanut, who most people considered one of the best junglers in the world. especially last year.
Oh, absolutely.
And they put in Untara and Blank. And they, like, nearly lost the second game, but they came back and won. And they won the third game. Blank on SKT is 19-0 this season. Does that mean he's the best jungler? No. But the thing is, when they sub both at the same time. And they play still as a team. I guarantee you with C9 that when you're subbing out Ray and Impact, both of them are aware and getting enough playtime with the other 4 members to be well coordinated with them. There is zero chance that TL is going to get that same coordination with this many players.
Yeah, I completely agree. Does anyone have any final Team Liquid thoughts? It's really good discussion, but we have to move on to at least talking about Dignitas for a little bit.
No comments. Paid by Steve.
Paid by Steve. Great. So the Dignitas game was actually fairly interesting. We lost game 1, but Trey actually gave me a really interesting stat where Dignitas hasn't lost a game 1 all split, which is fairly interesting.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah, no, I didn't believe it myself. I had to check, but they have
Really?
not lost a game 1.
I did not know that. That's so weird.
Yeah, it's really weird, and I actually really like how they drafted for game 1, because basically all Cloud9 can do is engage through like ultimates, and they just pick Morgana, which the Black Shield can pretty much cancel out any of that.
Yeah, looking at their
So
team comp,
and they got Caitlyn, so she just has to shield Caitlyn, and their big damage carry stays alive, and then we've wasted everything.
yeah, they didn't
And
have
then-
any
and then
hard
we have to
engage.
run.
They had VAR Assault. That was the only hard engage they had, because Thresh Hook is too unreliable, and Orianna ult is very predictable.
Yeah. So it was just really rough with the comp that we had to like just get anything done, and we just kind of slowly bled out.
And it was also another thing that was kind of a important factor was that they gave Shrimp his signature Lee Sin, which, I mean, I've joked this with my friends. I think that Shrimp is basically just Korean's Vince Garen. I mean, he's currently 6-0 if you don't know right now on Lee Sin. Shrimp, that is. So that's, I mean, giving a comfort pick like that and like to Shrimp is just not the greatest idea. I would say that's either a pick ban thing. I'm not sure if that went through the ban. They had to go through the ban phase game too, which intrigues me as to why Dig wouldn't go after that, or C9 wouldn't think to ban it. But I mean, it's just something that I've noticed that Shrimp does like to play a lot of, or like a lot of these heavy early game engaged junglers.
I think game 1 definitely is attributed to the pick ban phase. Specifically allowing Kate to fall through and first picking Galio instead. I think, especially when you know that Lee Sin is on the board, you can trade out the Elise ban, because we saw Shrimp's Elise, and it's alright, but it's not amazing. His Lee Sin is very good, and you could have also banned it second phase, but they chose not to do that. I think the fact that first picking Galio is fine, but if you first pick Galio, I think you need to ban the Kate on blue side.
I think they didn't want to give Someday Galio, so I think that's why they took it. But yeah, I completely agree. The fact that they really don't have much priority for Caitlyn is really kind of unnerving, because everyone is saying how she's super OP right now. You know, she has the high crit build. You know, ahead or behind, you just lay down traps, and it makes the game just super frustrating to play.
Build.
Yeah, the Energizer build. And, you know, the trap line is super annoying, and she just deals so much damage, and it, you know, just gets really annoying to play around. And the fact that we're not really giving her a lot of priority is just kind of weird.
I'd have to agree on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Sorry.
it also revolves... Sorry. Were you going to say something?
Sorry. Oh, that was weird, but yeah, go ahead.
I think it also revolves around Sneaky has a pretty wide champ pool, and I think a lot of the time they feel that Sneaky can outplay Caitlyn, but with the current way she is, I think it's better just to...
Yeah, you can't really outplay the things that make Caitlyn good, though.
Not right now.
Yeah, because it's...
in previous patches.
Yeah, but like as of now, she has just insane wave clear, which is incredibly safe at the same time because it's so long ranged, and then she has the potential to just stall out a game for almost indefinitely with her trap line.
Yeah.
And because of that, it just, you have to put more pressure on it. From now on, I think they will, because they've seen the differences.
Yeah,
that
not to mention they had a
Kate's
Victor
caused.
and a Gragas on that team, so like at that point, there's nothing you can really do. That's so much wave clear.
Yeah, I will say though, I think for games 2 and 3 we did a much better job of managing the draft and playing out the early game. I think the team adapted really well to how Dignitas was playing, and I think they made really good changes. We gave Sneaky Jin, who he's been excellent on, and Jensen was just smashing it.
Jensen is playing like an MVP right now.
He's playing
100%.
out of his mind.
That guy
with
is an
Split.
absolute monster right now. It's crazy.
I mean, he rarely dies. He's racks up these just an insane number of kills overall. He's completely smashing just the laning phase. Sometimes the CS differentials that he creates are like really big, and he'll sometimes be up maybe like I think 50 CS over his laning opponent. And he absorbs just so much pressure, and he can dodge all these like 3-man ganks a lot. And I'm really impressed by how much more he's putting into the game. I mean, everyone on the team I think has stepped up from last season.
Absolutely.
I think they're playing with an intensity I don't think I've seen before. But Jensen especially, he is a hungry wolf, and he wants that trophy.
Absolutely. I mean, and not only is he doing well, like just within the context of this game. I mean, there's games where he's lost. I mean, I think the best example you have is when he played against Immortals. I mean, the guy was like, even in that, like, he was still tiers above like Pobelter in terms of how he was doing in the laning and then playing some of these team fights out. Like even in some of his losses, he looks still very, very strong. And his Orianna is going to. I theorize that his Orianna ban will bring in a few bans right now. I think I've seen it in past games where it's drawn out a few bans, but I don't think you can. It's really not wise to hit his champ pool just because we've seen there's a multitude of stuff that he can play for now. But it's really good to see him. It's really exciting to see him be this hungry, and I'm hoping he gets that MVP.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, on top of Jensen playing like a legend, we finally have started to see Impact getting more comfortable. So
that's what I was going to mention. I was going to say that he's starting to return to form. He looked much better than last week. He was playing a lot better. He had a couple Renekton outplays in game 2, I believe.
There were some remnants of like the top die Impact again.
Yeah, he got a solo kill. I think in...
Yeah, game 3 versus Dig, I think somebody might have accidentally messed up the pick ban. Because game 3, he was on Renekton versus Fiora, I believe.
Oh, maybe. I might have messed up.
Game 3, he was... Impact played Galio into Renekton.
He did play Galio into the Renekton. It was game 2 where he played the
Renekton.
Renekton.
I'm thinking of game 2 where he started popping off.
Yeah, that was game 2.
Yeah,
My
that
bad.
was where he went nutty.
So I was right. You bamboozled
I
me.
am a mistake.
But yeah. So I think a really good showing of Cloud9. We're in the top 4 now. We beat Dignitas, who was a top team. So I think we're trending nicely. That being said, that trend may take a little spike. So this Friday, June 30th at 6 p.m. Eastern,
Dun, dun, dun.
we're going to be playing against TSM. They're tied for second with CLG. And I gotta say, I'm not sure if we can beat them. They have always given us trouble. I think out of all the teams in the LCS that Cloud9 has played against, TSM seems to be our kryptonite, and we just can't really beat them. What do you guys think that we need to do to realistically win?
Don't lose the early game.
Yeah, pretty much that. TSM is so good at when they get a lead, they just keep pressuring, and it's C9's big weakness that whenever they don't get, like whenever they don't go even in the early game, they kind of slowly bleed out and just try and stall the game. So that's, yeah, C9 just needs to not lose the early game, go even if they can, and then that's when they'll be able to shine.
Also, dragon control is going to be a big part of this series just because Cloud9 and TSM both, when they win, they usually win with 1 or 2 dragon advantages. It's very rare that you see teams like C9 and TSM win with 2 or 3 dragon disadvantages, and that's usually when like other teams are trading 5 kills for a dragon plus 2 turrets or something like that. That's really weird. So I think dragon contention is going to be really big.
I will say though, I think TSM's big struggle has been actually in the mid game. I think from a lot of their games, people are saying that sometimes they just don't know what to do, and their shot calling kind of gets a little lazy. So maybe that's where we can strike, since we have fairly good mid to late game shot calling. That's maybe when we can kind of, throw a reverse on them. But I definitely agree. Early game is probably going to be our biggest priority. Hopefully, we can pull it through. I think we should definitely ban Lee Sin, Syndra, and Caitlyn, because those are the huge power picks, especially for TSM, because Bjergsen is really, really good on Syndra, and she's just a broken champion. Svenskaren's best pick is Lee Sin, and he can do so much more with it than without it, and Caitlyn is just too much of a hassle to worry about.
Yes, the Svenskaren's only 9-1 this season or this split on Lee Sin. So I mean, if that doesn't have to be one of the only way I can see this going through the ban phase is if Contracts himself, if they're on playing blue side and Contracts just wants to play it. But even then, I still wouldn't. I still think that Pobelter, not I don't know why I said Pobelter. Since Contracts is better off playing a couple of other junglers. Like I noticed that his Gragas this weekend was actually really good, as compared to Sven's, which he did on. I think they played this weekend versus Echo Fox, and even then, even though they won, it was a bit sloppy. In terms of early game, it's not so much that we have to win the early game, it's just we have to really keep a hold of it. Because, I'm not saying that we're Echo Fox, but Echo Fox was starting to give them a bit of a run for their money in the early game. And they just performed very sloppy Barons and very poor, control over, their sideways and their mids. But I think that the bans are reasonable in terms of those three. I think one of the main keys is we know that Jensen's going to be in a completely different tier of mid laner. Keen, yeah, that was yeah, he's not bad. Slushie, you should win that one, but now he's going against who people widely consider the best mid laner in NA, or for a long time. So that's really where a lot of the key is. And the question is, if our win condition, are we going with the Jensen train? Can we put all our coins in the Jensen train, or do we maybe find somewhere with Impact? Does Impact start to do better, or do we put more priority in the bot lane? These are the questions that you kind of have to ask yourself in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of it might do with where the map pressure goes. I think we're just going to see a lot of pressure top and mid lane, because everyone pressures Impact because he's kind of been slumping, and he's also just a rock for Cloud9, and that he can deal with CS deficits but still be extremely useful. And they pressure the mid lane a lot because Jensen is pretty much our main carry, and we funnel a lot of resources through him. So I think we'll definitely be playing around that map pressure and seeing how Contracts and Svenskeren utilize ganks and stuff.
We all know that Svenskaren's coming to
with the rest
lane.
of the team.
I think it was a fact last year that Svenskeren spent more time around top lane than anywhere else last split, compared to top laners in terms of like jungle proximity to the top lane. So we know for a fact that Sven's gonna be playing around that top lane.
Yeah, Sven loves ganking for Hanser. I think the only thing we can hope is that they put Bjergsen on a supported mid laner, put him on Karma, put Hanser on whatever it is Hanser performs badly at. Don't give Svenskeren Lee Sin and hope he turns into Int Skaren.
Yeah, his Lee Sin is scary as hell, dude.
It really
He'll do some damage on that one, so that's definitely a ban, I think.
Yeah, it'll be really rough. I'm gonna set my expectations low just so they don't get shattered. But if we win, I will be extremely ecstatic.
Oh, nothing would please me more than to beat TSM.
For sure. Alright, well, moving on. The next day, July 1st at 3 p.m. Eastern, Cloud9 goes against CLG. Now, Cloud9 is now more practiced. They had a really off week 1, but they're more practiced. I think CLG is not, unbeatable. We've beaten Dardoch before. We can beat CLG. We've done that before. I think all we have to do is really just have Contracts clean up his early game and out pressure Dardoch. Because if he can do that, I think the rest is relatively easy. CLG does have really good macro game, and sometimes we just can't compete with that, and it's really difficult for us for some reason. I'm not sure why. But I think if we have a good early game, we should be able to win.
Yeah, I think this series is definitely winnable.
Absolutely. I think that really the right there, the whole Dardoch versus Contract, I think that's the main question you have to ask yourself, because I mean, even though CLG's win condition this split has not really been Dardoch, and that's kind of what people expected out of him, is for them to be the kind of X factor. Like, the main win condition we've seen out of CLG is just, oh, hey, everyone else is stepping it up now, versus last split where everyone was super underperforming. I'm excited to see the bot matchup because Stixay and Sneaky have very similar playstyles.
I think there's a lot of matchups that go into this. I think if we pinch who he's champion pool, that could definitely be a point of contention.
Please ban Aurelion Soul, Reaper.
Or just get it disabled. That works too.
Yeah, Jensen, get on that.
But I predicted this before the season too. CLG, while they came off to a great start, have definitely looked like they've started to falter. And I think once it starts, I don't think it stops, especially with somebody like Dardoch on your team. Because of this, I think they're going to struggle with communication. They've just dropped more games than they had earlier, and that's why I say this. But I think the team, while they're meshing well, isn't strong enough to beat C9 at its current performance.
How do you explain sort of their struggles recently? Is it just they don't have a good enough supportive staff in terms of analysts and coaches, or is it just a team thing, and individual players like Darshan or Dardoch or Huhi and the rest kind of struggle to really adapt as the meta changes and the split goes on?
I think the meta change for sure is a big part of it, which I think on the team there's also a big conflict of playstyles, where Darshan has a very distinct playstyle that he is best at, and he's shown that he's willing to play other playstyles, but Dardoch is a very finicky player where he can very easily go and tilt off the face of the earth, which could tilt other teammates. And I think if a difference in playstyle occurs where, let's say, Huhi thinks that Dardoch should be ganking mid more, and let's think that Dardoch thinks that top is better focused. Simple things like that can become much bigger problems when you have more emotional players on your team. So I think that's what's contributing to their recent falters, is with this new meta change, they have kind of a disagreement on how to play, which may be cluttering their columns.
Okay. That that answers my question. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you live by Dardoch or you die by him. I mean, that's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah, he's a very explosive player. I remember even when he was on Team Liquid, for like the first split he was on Team Liquid, it was definitely a case of him doing really well in the jungle and then transferring that lead to his teammates, or him doing really poorly in the jungle and then the team just kind of withering and dying. So I definitely think that he has some issues where if he can't get the right lead that he wants, he kind of has to fight against it. But that's my theory anyway. Ian, do you have any thoughts on the CLG match?
Nothing that you guys haven't already said. I think that Contracts versus Dardoch is definitely the highlight of this. As long as we ban Aurelion Sol, I think we'll be fine.
All right, maybe Lee Sin. I mean, Dardoch is the cleanest NA Lee Sin player.
Yeah.
I think that would definitely be a realistic ban, actually.
Yep, absolutely.
I think that's a valid ban.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and like Trey said, pinching Huki will definitely be important because it will secure Jensen probably a good matchup, so he doesn't have to worry as much. And then just have to look out for jungle pressure, make sure our vision is good and everyone's playing smart. And I mean, I think we can realistically beat CLG. They don't look nearly as unbeatable as they looked at the beginning of the season. TSM, I think, is really just going to be the hard cookie for this week.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely, yeah. Dude.
Also, Rift Rivals, everyone's favorite pointless tournament that solves nothing.
Hey, it's not pointless. It's to show international competition and that Riot cares and... Oh, wait, what were we talking about?
He's tired
PR
because of the jet lag.
That's it.
He had to fly
because we're playing
across,
in EU, baby rage.
You had to fly across half the planet just to play for a 3-day tournament.
This could have been set up so much better.
Yeah, at least like finding like a halfway point.
I love that we're having an international tournament. Like, even though it's only NA versus EU, that's a great rivalry. I loved Battle of the Atlantic when we did that in 2014 or 2013. I think it was 2014. But that was really fun. I think that we can't really expect much out of this tournament, to be honest.
I mean, we have P1 going there, who is only has one win.
P1 and 7.
P1 and 7. We'll be facing off against G2, Fnatic, and Unicorns of Love. This tournament doesn't really affect anything. It's just kind of a fun thing Riot decided to do in the middle of a season. Do you guys have any expectations? I think it'll at least be fun to watch.
I think it'll be pretty cool.
I think it'll be fun to watch. I don't think much is really gonna come of it though.
Yeah,
other than memes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think what's going to happen is something weird will happen. P1 will somehow win a game. G2 won't make it out. Something. Either TSM or C9 plays probably Fnatic and it goes close.
Something TSM. But yeah, that'll start July 5th through the 8th. I now I remember what I was going to mention. I remember hearing a lot of players saying that from Cloud9 and I think from maybe even TSM, they're not really doing anything different to prepare. They're just going to like go there and then do what they normally do and scrim some teams, do the thing and then come back. So they're definitely not doing anything special for it. So I think they're treating it in the right mind of it's just kind of a vacation in a sense. So maybe they can enjoy themselves, play some games,
# EU
see the
vacation.
sights, and yeah, much like EU.
I think the biggest difference for this tournament is going to be if it's played on 713 or not.
Oh yeah,
Because
for sure.
if it's played on 713, Fnatic loses one of their best picks.
It's honestly been their only pick because Reckless has only played that in Tristana, I think, for this split.
That will be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see because the Kinnan nerfs overall
It
you aren't
basically guts
losing
80
that
Kinnan.
much damage, but 80 Kinnan over like unless you're building AP at that point, you're losing a good chunk of your damage over time.
Yeah.
Now, early game it may not be much, but in the late game,
The
it's
transition is very horrendous.
quite a big chunk. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, it'll definitely be exciting, and of course we'll probably talk about it, give you guys the scoop. So we're probably going short on time, so let's take it to the outro. Everybody, I want your predictions on this weekend, starting with you, Dr. Manhattan. What are your predictions for this weekend?
I think that it's like for the Friday match. I think it'll go either way, 2-1. I think that we may get like a really dominant first game from either side, but I think it'll go either way. I'm just because I can't, like, just in my mind, just don't like to even envisioning losing to TSM. I'm gonna say 2-1 for us there. Fingers crossed, and I say that with also knowing that it might also be 2-1 in favor of TSM. In terms of CLG, I don't see. I really don't. I'm not. It's not that I don't fear them, but it's just like they are starting to look a bit sloppy. So I'll go with it. I'll go with a clean 2-0 on that one for the CLG match. And do we doing Rift Rivals too?
No, we'll skip Rift Rival stuff.
Okay, cool.
For at least for prediction wise. But yeah, that sounds good.
Aw.
Trey, what about you?
I think both series 2-1 in favor of Cloud9. I think we probably are going to see Impact rise up. I don't see Ray playing much this week. I also will throw my hat in because I do really care about Rift Rivals. And I say we're going to go 2-1, lose to UOL, make it to the finals anyways, and then beat Fnatic in a best of 5 because we'll remember to ban Caston.
Spicy. I like it.
I cry every Tim.
All right, Ian, what are your predictions?
Oh man, TSM is super like up in the air. I feel like there's a possibility that C9 could win, but at the same time, I think TSM is right now probably the better team. But like Dr. Manhattan said, I really don't like the thought of losing to TSM, so I'm gonna say 2-1 in favor of C9, just because I don't like TSM.
Yeah, you just don't want to give them the satisfaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Of you saying that they'll win.
Exactly. I can't ever admit that they're gonna win. And then I think it'll be a 2-1 in favor of C9 versus CLG as well.
All right, I think I'm gonna have to make the same prediction. Like you, I am very unsure about the TSM match, but I don't want to give them that satisfaction. I don't want them to say that they're right and that they'll win. As for CLG, it could definitely go 2-0 or 2-1, but I definitely think it's a realistically winnable match, and I think if we are ready for it, it shouldn't provide too many problems, and we should win. So I'm going to say 2-1 for that as well.
Alright.
As for moment of the week, if anyone has any, mine is that Cloud9, at least for a brief time, put fidget spinners on their store.
I saw that.
And
They will be coming back.
And I
have
ordered one. I ordered one before they took them off the store, so eventually I'll get one in the mail, and it'll be great. I might even review it on the show.
Oh my god!
For those of you who are interested.
I may have to do a face cam next show on my stream to fidget spin it to win it. No, I did not order one, but I know there will be backup on the market. They apparently had
They had a quality control
quality,
issue.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw that
Which
on the
I'm
sub
sure
that they released fidget spinners, and I thought it was a joke at first. And then I looked in the comments, and they were like, "Oh, this is serious." And then they took it off, and it was like quality control issues or whatever. But I think that's hilarious that they made that. That's really funny.
Yeah, it's great, right?
I think my moment of the week is definitely gonna go down to Twitch affiliates getting sub buttons. You can sub to Twitch affiliates now, and that's really cool. So
Hint, hint.
that's definitely my moment of the week. Sub to me.
I guess. Moment of the week. I didn't really do much. Well, actually, I guess my moment of the week would be kind of from last week. My aunt was in town for the week from Florida, and my family showed her around the city, and it was a good time, and she had a great time. So that was fun.
Feels good, man.
Dr. Manhattan, do you have any moment of the week?
A few. Two main ones. First of all, after having I think an issue happened with FedEx where they didn't deliver to my home address. I finally managed to get my Cloud9 flag on my wall, which is looking really sick right now. And I managed to and on Monday I managed to get lottery selected into the whole pre-sale for Boston. So I will be going to the Boston finals.
Ooh, fun.
Congratulations.
Oh, sick. Yeah, congratulations. That should be
I
really
know
fun.
Buying tickets for Riot events is very tough. I definitely struggled because I went to Worlds finals last year, and initially it said once I finally was able to buy tickets, it said they were already sold out, and I had to refresh the page a bunch. And I barely was able to get tickets, and I know a lot of people who didn't, so Riot really needs to work on their systems because it's kind of unfair.
I speak from experience. I've been to multiple. I went to. Now I'm going to Boston. Before that, I went to Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't think that's even really a Riot thing.
It's like
that's just a ticket buying online thing in general.
Yeah, I know Comic-Con kind of has the same issue where it's really hectic to try to get multiple day passes for
anything with limited number tickets is a huge problem. Concerts, any conventions with limited number, sports things.
I'm not blaming Riot. I'm just saying that I hate when it comes down to luck instead of people waiting to get tickets and them all being released at the same time. But I understand that they're trying to stop scammers who are just going to upsell the price. But
yeah, speaking from a guy who's going to his third summer final in a row, it is a very stressful experience for me. Trying to get the tickets as soon as I can. And I'm there I'm on Ticketmaster at least 5-10 minutes before they even go on sale. It's just ready there to start clicking.
Yeah, I think I was waiting for 2 hours beforehand, just sitting there waiting for tickets to drop for World Finals.
That sounds like that must have been something.
All right. Well, congratulations on those tickets, Dr. Manhattan. You'll have to tell us all about it once you go. I know you're super excited about it.
Absolutely, and much like what I did with Vancouver, I'll probably especially now that I have better equipment, I'll probably make an entire video dedicated to it, especially if C9 does end up going, which I'm really hoping they go. Come on, guys, please bring this one home this year.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that'll about do it for today. Thank you for listening to the 42nd episode of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Feel free to tweet questions and feedback to us at C9Bodied, or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. Questions might be answered on the next episode, so please get them to us. We like to interact with our fans. I'm very interactive on Twitter. I run our Twitter account, so if you want to shout out to me or anyone else on the show, please do so. It's always nice to talk to people. And yeah, just thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time.
See ya.
Goodbye.